So we're reading text number 6, Nectar of Instruction. Driste svabhava janitir vaputascha doshe na prakritadvam iha bhakta janasya pashyat gangam vasam nakula budbuddha pena panke Brahma dravatvam apagacchati niradharmai Dristai svabhava janitir vapuchascha doshe Na prakritadvam iha bhakta janasya pashyat Gangam basam na kolu budbuddha pena panke Brahma dravadvam apagacchati niradharmai Dristai svabhava janitir vapuchascha doshe Na prakritadvam iha bhakta janasya pashyat Gangam basam na kolu budbuddha pena panke Brahma dravadvam apagacchati niradharmai Chant. Anyone else like to chant? Dristai, seen by ordinary vision. Swabhava janitai, born of one's own nature. Vapusa, of the body. Cha, and doshai, by the faults. Na, not. Prakritadvam, the state of being material. Iha, in this world. Bhakta janasya, of a pure devotee. Pashyat, one should see. Ganga ambasam, of the Ganges water. Na, not. Iha, kalu, certainly. Buddha pena pankai, about bubbles, foam and mud. Brahma Dravatvam, the transcendental nature. Apagachati is spoiled. Niradharmai, the characteristics of water. Translation. Being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee. But despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of the Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam and mud. The Ganges water do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Shuddha Bhakti, the activity of the soul proper. In other words, engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is performed in a liberated condition. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Mam Chayo one who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Avyabhicharini Bhakti means unalloyed devotion. A person engaged in devotional service must be free from material motives. In this Krishna consciousness movement, one's consciousness must be changed. If our consciousness is aimed towards material enjoyment, it is material consciousness. And if it is aimed towards serving Krishna, it is Krishna consciousness. A surrendered soul serves Krishna without material consideration. Anya bilasita shunyam, jnana karma janavritam. Unalloyed devotional service, which is transcendental to the activities of this body and mind, such as jnana, mental speculation, and karma, fruitive work, is called pure bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is the proper activity of the soul, and when one actually engages in unalloyed, uncontaminated devotional service, he is already liberated. Sagunam samatityaitkam. Krishna's devotee is not subjected to material condition, even though his bodily features may appear materially conditioned. One should therefore not see a pure devotee from a materialistic point of view. Unless one is actually a devotee, he cannot see another devotee perfectly. As explained in the previous verse, there are three types of devotees: Kanista Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The Kanishta Adhikari cannot distinguish between a devotee and non-devotee. He is simply concerned with worshipping the deity in the temple. A Madhyama Adhikari, however, can distinguish between the devotee and non-devotee, as well as between the devotee and the Lord. Thus he treats the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the devotee and the non-devotee, in different ways. Alright, so Srila Prabhupada is describing to us the nature of pure devotional service. Pure devotional service means without material desires. So, one who is actually on the platform of pure devotion, they should actually have spiritual vision. And we're hearing from this verse about the importance of seeing people not with the material conception, but with the eye of knowledge. It's not proper to judge someone just by their external appearance. So I remember in London, Prabhupada came in London, it was 1971, 72, like that, and gurus were very prominent. It was really in the news a lot. The Beatles had spent time, they'd gone to the Himalayas with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and that was big news. And then you had other different gurus, there was people, there were many different things. Everybody was coming up with their different gurus. So there was Rajneesh, he was big news, very big news, because he had so much money, and then he ran away from India, he ran away to America, and he had a big fleet of cars, very expensive cars, and he had a lot of women there as well. And he put women in all the managerial positions. He said women are better managers than men. He liked to have the women manage everything. Anyway, there were people like him, they were all in the news, you know, it was very, the Time magazine had even declared it the year of the Guru. And so, you know, it was big things. So the reporters came to our temple in London, and we had a humble center, you know, it was not a very opulent place, it was a simple building. There were about 4 or 5 floors, but there were small area. The area of each floor was quite small. And so we were living there, and the devotees, we were all young men, you know, really young. And we would go out every day and sing and dance in the main streets in London. And regularly we would go, every day we'd go out. We'd go out twice a day. We'd go out in the morning, come back for lunch, and go out again in the afternoon. So we were spending our whole day just chanting and dancing and trying to distribute some literature. So people, the reporters at least, who had come there to interview Srila Prabhupada, they could understand that there was a big difference between the Hare Krishna people and these other gurus, because they saw Srila Prabhupada. Here you have this elderly gentleman, Indian gentleman, and he doesn't have the long hair, and he doesn't have the beard like these other gurus, and he's talking about God, and he's talking about pure devotion, and he's talking on a very different manner from these other people. So the reporters came to meet Srila Prabhupada, and they wanted Srila Prabhupada to condemn the other gurus. They wanted Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Prabhupada would say something to criticize these other gurus. You know, they wanted to make some kind of news, something you know, some gossip which would really attract people to read their article. And so they were asking Prabhupada, what do you think of all these gurus who've got so many cars? You know, what do you think of these gurus who've got mansions in Switzerland and they've got a lot of money? And you have people like Krishnamurti, who was living in uptown New York, and he was surrounded by a lot of old, elderly American ladies, and he was in a nice apartment with French furniture, and he was dressed in Western three-piece suit, you know. And there's Srila Prabhupada coming to London, and he's got a dhoti on, and he's got rubber shoes, and you know, it was quite a gulf of difference between him and these other people. So they were looking to Srila Prabhupada that he would criticize these other gurus. But Srila Prabhupada explained to these reporters, he said that, you know, somebody may be on the bicycle, he may be a cheater. Just because somebody has a big car or a fleet of cars, it doesn't mean that he must be a cheater. You have to look. It's not enough to just look at how they're living. You can't condemn someone just because of their lifestyle, but you have to hear what they're saying. So Srila Prabhupada was stressing the importance of hearing from the spiritual teacher, and then you can actually understand who is genuine and who is not. You cannot judge someone as being bogus just because he rides in a big car. Somebody may be very genuine and ride in the big car, and someone may ride a bicycle and he may be a big cheater. You cannot judge by the material situation. You have to hear what are they saying. So that's important. So Srila Prabhupada would make this point again and again to people. He would ask, if people asked him, what do you think of this guru? Then Prabhupada would ask them, what do you mean guru? And they would say, I don't know. Or somebody would come to Prabhupada, they would say, I want to find a guru. And Prabhupada would ask them, what do you mean guru? What person is a guru? And the person would say, I don't know. It's like. Then Prabhupada said, then how will you find a guru if you don't know what it's like? If you don't know what a guru is supposed to be, then you won't be able to find a guru. You have to know for yourself what is the qualification of a genuine guru, a spiritual teacher. If you don't know, then you can be cheated. And many people have been cheated. Many people were cheated. It's very easy that people are taken in by different gurus. They will come to the guru and the guru will say, I will make you God, just pay me the money. Some things are like that, you know. The guru will say, I will make you God, you just pay me the money. So some gurus are like that, they're in the business and they sell mantras. You can, you know, you just pay me the money and I'll give you the mantra and chant this mantra and you can become God or you can become self-realized. So it's very easy for people to be deceived because they don't really know what is what is the real qualification of a guru. They don't know. So they're thinking guru is someone with long hair and a big beard. Is that guru? There are so many people with long hair and big beards. There's so many vagrants you know, people, just people, homeless people, destitute people, they have long hair and big beard. That doesn't make them a guru. And the saffron dress also does not make them a guru. Just this morning, over Abbott's, we were reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and we were reading from the 4th canto, Prithu Maharaj, and Prithu Maharaj doing 100 horse sacrifices. So there it was described how Indra had come and disguised himself as a sannyasi, and his purpose was to steal the horse from the sacrifice of Indra, of Maharaj Prithu rather. Indra didn't want Maharaj Prithu to be able to do 100 horse sacrifices. So Indra was jealous and he tried to steal the horse. And in order to try to steal the horse, Indra disguised himself as a sannyasi. He took advantage. And Prabhupada writes, he said, in the Kali Yuga, this is going on still. People are dressing as sannyasis. But often these people who are in the dress of sannyasis are atheists. They have no God consciousness. They have no knowledge about God. They're atheists. And they give a lot of atheistic philosophy. Just like they say, and you were also telling me the other day, we were hearing some people say, work is worship. That's one atheistic philosophy. But there are many others. People will say, Manasa Puja, Madhava Puja. They say, by serving God, by serving the people, you're serving God. They say like that. It's not there in the scriptures, but these atheistic philosophies are coming more and more every day. You get these different people coming along with these ideas. Somebody else came, they said, it's all right to eat fish. Fish is the fruit of the sea. So you can eat fish if you want. So people thought, very nice, I can eat fish. Very good. This is a good religion. They let me eat fish. People, they're easily taken in, they're easily cheated. Kali Yuga people, manda samanda matayo, manda bhagyahi padruta. Lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. They never have peace of mind. So we need to give them the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. It's not enough to just only go by external appearances. So we may think, oh, then I don't need to shave my head. I don't need to dress as a devotee. Yeah, you don't need to if you're advanced enough. If you're advanced enough, you don't need to. You can go in ordinary dress. But most of us, we greatly benefit by wearing the dress of a devotee. When we do put on the dress of a devotee, it's very helpful for us to become more Krishna conscious. We become more aware that I'm a devotee, I'm a member of the Hare Krishna movement. That's why we shave our heads, why we wear tulsi neck beads, why we wear dhoti and so on, put tilak on, all of these things. It's helpful for us to remember that we are devotees of Krishna. And it's helpful for others who see us, that when they see us, they can understand, oh, there's a Hare Krishna. Right? They don't say, oh, there's Bhakta Bob, or there's Bhakta Mick. No, they say, oh, there's a Hare Krishna. So that's good. They're recognizing the devotees. And so we need to put ourselves into that role of being a member of Krishna consciousness movement. And that's why we dress as devotees. So that everywhere we go, people can see us and they know, oh, there's the Hare Krishna people. So that's good. They start to think about devotees. But if we disguise ourselves, you know, if we just look like ordinary people, then we'll just be like ordinary people to other people. Being a devotee, we do want to be conscious of our position, that we're members of the Krishna consciousness movement. So, there are different kinds of devotees. As we heard in the previous text, we heard there's the neophyte, there's the intermediate devotee, and there's the topmost devotee. So Prabhupada is explaining to us about the intermediate devotee. First of all, he said the Kanishta devotee, he's only seeing God in the deity. He doesn't see God in the hearts of all living entities. So he's not very nice to people. He's maybe very good in dealing with the deity. He's obedient to the deity and serves the deity, but for the ordinary people and the ordinary devotees, he's not very nice. In fact, he may be critical of them. So that's a problem of the Kanishta devotee. In other words, the Prakrita Bhakta, materialistic devotee. A preacher, however, will be on the Madhyama level. And on the Madhyama level, you have to make distinction. Make a distinction between God and the devotees. Devotee is not God. Devotee is the humble servant of God. And then we have to be able to distinguish between the innocent and the atheists, the non-believers. Because the atheists and non-believers, they will get very upset when they hear the devotee glorifying the Lord. If we begin to glorify Krishna and to speak his praise, then the atheists get very angry. Just like at the Rajasuya Yagya. Maharaj Yudhishthira was going to do Rajasuya Yagya, and they were going to worship Krishna for the Ugra Puja, the personality who was most worthy of worship, and they wanted to worship Krishna. And Shishupal got so upset that Shishupal began to blaspheme Krishna like anything. So that's the nature of the demon, Shishupal. Shishupal, very envious. So he was so envious of Lord Krishna. He was trying to criticize Krishna, trying to condemn Krishna, and so Krishna just killed him. That was, of course, before Kali Yuga. But Krishna, by killing Shishupal, he liberated him. And it meant Shishupal could go back to Godhead. All right, any questions so far on this? Prabhupada never liked to be on the material platform or to talk on the material platform. Just like, you know, people would come and they would ask, oh, Swamiji, how old are you? And Prabhupada would say, I am the same age as you. I am the same age as you. You are a soul and I am also a soul. Prabhupada would say like that to them. He would immediately bring them to the spiritual platform. Because if you're simply looking, you know, just like we would go on Sankirtan in London, we'd go out and distribute books, and sometimes people, you know, many tourists are there in London, and they would come up to us and they'd say, where is the British Museum? Or where is Madame Tussauds? Or where is this? Or where is that? We would just tell them, oh, you just go there, number 7 Bury Place. Everything is there. We'd send them to the temple. And they would ask us, where are you from? We'd say, I'm from Krishna. I'm from Goloka. And so are you. We're all spirit souls. We're all part and parcel of Krishna. So people come with these mundane questions. You have to elevate them. You have to bring them up to the higher platform. Our business is not to satisfy their material demands. Our duty is to bring them up to the transcendental level and to make them Krishna conscious. And so we always try to avoid putting ourselves onto the material platform. It's not required. Rather, it becomes fun. Just like there was that one devotee, Vamsi Das Babaji. He was like a disciple. I don't know if he was ever actually initiated, but he had some friendly relationship with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And so Vamsi Das Babaji, he used to speak to his deities. He was always speaking to his deity. He carried deities with him, and he would often speak to the deities in his ecstasy. So sometimes people would come to him and they would say to things like, they'd say to him, "What do you think of the government?" You know, that's common in India, right? People love to talk politics and talk about the government. So people came to Vamsi Das Babaji and they asked him, "What do you think of the government, Babaji Maharaj?" Babaji Maharaj said, "Govardhan?" He didn't say government, he changed it to Govardhan. He didn't want to talk about the government. He would just say, "Govardhan? Govardhan? Oh, Govardhan, yes, Govardhan. By the side of Radhakund, this glorious hill picked up by the hand of Lord Krishna." He'd speak the glories of Govardhan. He would never get into the politics, the government. That's to be avoided. That's the Gramya Katha. We want to have the Krishna Katha, not the Gramya Katha. The village talk. The women go to the well every day, or they go to the market, or you see them, women always, you know, they have so many things to talk, many things to say. But it's all Gramya Katha, village talk. Did you hear about so-and-so? Do you know what happened to her? You know, all of these things. This is very common, this kind of talk, the Gramya Katha. But we want to have Krishna Katha. You're going to talk, you're going to use the tongue, so use it to speak the glories of Krishna. You don't talk prajalpa. Nonsense talk breeds nonsense thought. And nonsense thought breeds nonsense action, which will breed birth, old age, disease, and death. So we're very cautious to avoid these things. Okay. No one should criticize the bodily defects of a pure devotee. If there are such defects, they should be overlooked. What should be taken into account is the spiritual master's main business, which is devotional service, pure service to the Supreme Lord, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Apichat sudaracharo even if a devotee sometimes seems to engage in abominable activities, he should be considered sadhu, a saintly person, because his actual identity is that of one engaged in the loving service of the Lord. In other words, he is not to be considered an ordinary human being. Not to be considered an ordinary human being. There's a verse like that. It speaks, Acharya Vishnu Shiladir Gurushu Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. And then the verse goes on, Yashyan Vanarakisha. That if we are thinking the deity to be made of material elements, then that is not good. That means you're a resident in hell. If you're simply thinking of the deity as being material elements, then you're on the material platform. You're not on the transcendental platform. And similarly, if we see a Vaishnava and we think the Vaishnava is someone who takes birth and dies like an ordinary person, then that is wrong. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written that nice poem, maybe you know that. He reasons ill who tells that a Vaishnava dies when thou art living still in sound. A Vaishnava dies to live, and in living tries to spread the holy name around. So this is the vision of a devotee. When we lose the devotee, when one of the devotees leave the body, we understand, we don't think of him as dying, but rather we think, he's changed the body, he's gone off somewhere else to serve Krishna, somewhere else, under the arrangement of Krishna. So it's bewildering, just like when Prabhupada was sick. We could think, oh, Prabhupada, that he's sick, he's having a problem with his material body and so on. So that is actually wrong. Rather, we should not see the devotee on the material platform. We should see them as spiritual beings. And the famous example is Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri, I was talking about him yesterday. So Madhavendra Puri, when he was leaving the body, he was lamenting. He was lamenting in separation for Krishna. And at that time, one of his disciples, Ramachandra Puri, came there, and the foolish disciple said to his guru, he said to his guru, "Oh Guru Maharaj, don't lament, you should rejoice for the Brahman. You should rejoice in the Brahman, don't lament." We have to understand how offensive that is, to think like that. First of all, Madhavendra Puri was a very, very great devotee. He was not lamenting for anything material. He was lamenting in separation from Krishna, in the mood of the gopis. But the foolish disciple could not understand. And he was telling him, "Oh Guru Maharaj, you should rejoice in the Brahman." So that his guru said to him, "Get out of here. If I have to see your face at the time of death, I will never achieve my desired destination." Now this was the words of Madhavendra Puri. He spoke like that to this Ramachandra Puri, to his disciple. So this is the problem. Sometimes devotees, although they're devotees, just like Ramachandra Puri was a devotee, but he was seeing in the material platform, and he was telling his guru, "Don't lament, you should rejoice in the Brahman." He did not understand that there is spiritual lamentation. Just as there is spiritual rejoicing, there is also spiritual lamentation. And the devotees, they desire to experience that spiritual lamentation, because that separation from Krishna, that is to be desired. To feel the separation from Krishna, that's also a nice level of devotional service. If someone is on that level of feeling the separation from Krishna, then they're making great advancement. They're doing very nice to come up to that level, to feel the separation for Krishna. But if somebody says, "I'm seeing Krishna every day, Krishna comes to me, Krishna comes to me and tells me I have a very nice wife and my daughter's very nice. He tells me all the... we get people like this, you know, they come to the temple. You get them. What can you do? You know, just encourage them. Just chant Hare Krishna. You know, some people are a little sahaja, you know, it's a sentiment. And they think like that. They think Krishna's coming. But rather the mood of the Goswamis and the mood of Chaitanya, they're feeling separation from Krishna. They're lamenting for Krishna. So that lamentation for Krishna is not material. That's the highest platform of spiritual practice, where one is feeling separation from Krishna. So Prabhupada quotes this verse from Bhagavad Gita, Api chet sudaracharo, that even if you're very fallen and sinful, you're engaged in sinful activity, still you quickly become a sadhu. Quickly you can make progress. We have to take advantage. We have to know the process, how to take advantage. Prabhupada explains, even though a pure devotee may not be born in a Brahmana or Goswami family, if he is engaged in the service of the Lord, he should not be neglected. For actually, there cannot be a family of Goswamis based on material considerations, caste or heredity. The Goswami title is actually the monopoly of the pure devotees. Thus, we speak of the 6 Goswamis, headed by Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami had practically become Mohammedans and had therefore changed their names to Dabir Kas and Sakara Malik. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself made them Goswamis. Therefore, the Goswami title is not heredity. The word Goswami refers to one who can control his senses, who is master of the senses. A devotee is not controlled by the senses, but is the controller of the senses. Consequently, he should be called Goswami or Swami, even though he may not be born in a Goswami line. So, some people, they criticize the Krishna consciousness movement, that, oh, the Brahmanas, the Hare Krishna Brahmanas, that they're all born in Western families, or they're born outside the Hindu society, or they're not Brahmanas. But Srila Prabhupada is saying, birth in the Brahmana family is not important. And even after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there were great spiritual masters who were not Brahmanas. Just like Shyamananda Pandit. Shyamananda Pandit was not born in a Brahmana family, but he was a very advanced devotee. And Rasikananda came and took shelter of, who did he take shelter? Shyamananda, right. So Rasikananda was the first disciple of Shyamananda. But Shyamananda wasn't born in Brahmana family, but Rasikananda was. And similarly, Narottam Das Thakur had many disciples, thousands of disciples. Narottam wasn't born in a Brahmana family. And he has disciples. Among his disciples, the leading disciples were people like Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, and there was another one, I forget his name anyway, but Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, he was one of the disciples of Narottam, and there was another one. There were two of them. They were from very high caste Brahmana families, and they both became disciples of Narottam Das Thakur. So like that, Prabhupada explains that and Prabhupada himself, of course, was not born in a Brahmana family. But Prabhupada initiated many people. He's not from a Brahmana family. So the birth is not really qualification. We have to understand that point, that Krishna doesn't say by birth. The divisions of society are not made by birth. They're made according to guna and karma, quality and work. So you go and you'll find you go to Birla's offices. If you ever go in Calcutta, they have a big building there near to our temple on Kamak Street, and it's called Industry House. It's all Birla's offices, and you'll see many of the people working there. They're Brahmanas, but they're doing Sudra work. They're working in the company, working in the office, and that. They're not working as Brahmanas. The business of the Brahmana is that they should worship the deity, they should study the scriptures, and they should teach to worship the deities, and they should teach the scriptures, and they can accept charity and they can give charity. So not Jiva Goswami, but Shivananda Saint's son. What's the name? Shivananda Saint's son? The one who wrote books. Shivananda Saint's son. He had a son who was a bit... Kavi Karnapur. Lord Chaitanya used to call him Puri Das. Puri Das. When Lord Chaitanya saw that Shivananda Saint's wife was pregnant, at that time Lord Chaitanya told him, you name this child Puri Das. So he got the name Puri. But later on, he grew up to be a great author. Even as a child, at one point Lord Chaitanya was saying to the boy, Puri Das, chant the holy name. And the little boy wouldn't chant. You know, sometimes you get children like that, you know, try to get them to do, and they won't. So Puri Das wouldn't do it. And Lord Chaitanya said, you see, I've given the holy name to the whole world, and I cannot get this one boy to chant. But Swarup Damodar was there, and Swarup Damodar said, actually, he said to Mahaprabhu, he said, actually the child is already chanting in the mind. He's assimilated the mantra and he's chanting in his mind. And so later on it happened, Lord Chaitanya asked the boy, he said, Puri Das, recite poetry, recite some poetry. And immediately Puri Das recited a verse. He composed a beautiful verse about Lord Krishna, describing Lord Krishna on the banks of the Yamuna. And it was a beautiful verse. He just made it up in Sanskrit. And everybody was amazed that, wow, so nice. So this was when he's a young boy. So later on he grew up and he wrote beautiful books. Kavi Karnapur. It became Kavi Karnapur. But originally Lord Chaitanya was calling him Puri Das. So Kavi Karnapur, he wrote books about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So we cannot understand a person's spiritual position just from the external appearance. You don't know. You cannot understand. In the same way, just because we're dressed up in robes and we have shaved heads, we have a sikha, and we have nice tilak and neck beads and everything, but it doesn't mean that we're better than those people who are outside. The qualification is not material. It's not material, but we have to consider how does a person speak and what is his actions. In the Bhagavad Gita, that question was asked. What is the nature of one who has achieved transcendence? How does the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, that question is read. How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk? Shruti. Yeah. Samadhistasya Keshava Tita Gim Kabaseta Kim Masita Prajeta Kim. Yeah. Right. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes. This we want to understand. So that question was asked in the Bhagavad Gita. That's in the 2nd chapter. Arjuna, one who has achieved transcendence. How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? And so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains the meaning of this. That this question is asked in the Bhagavad Gita, but the idea is, how does a person engage his senses? And how does a person, what does he do with his senses when he's not engaged? How does he use his senses? So the same way, we want to understand a person, how to know who is actually the liberated person. Being student should want to put questions before the spiritual teacher. And he will want to see that the spiritual teacher can satisfy him with the replies. And Prabhupada said, the disciple should hear from the teacher. You should hear for 1 year. And in this way you should be convinced that this person can save me. Not that we just think, oh, this person, he's a great guru, I should take him for my guru, he should be my guru. We shouldn't be influenced just by external features. Just like somebody may have a lot of disciples. You may think, oh, he must be a really good guru. And somebody may not have any disciples. You may think, oh, I think he would be a good guru. He doesn't have any disciples. Sometimes we're thinking materially rather than seeing the spiritual platform. So it's very important that we don't allow ourselves to be conditioned. Conditioned souls, we're thinking, you know, oh, this person, he's very nice to me. He told me I'm a good cook. I think I should take initiation from him. And somebody else comes along and they tell you your cooking was terrible. They say, oh, I'm not going to take initiation from him. You know, told me my cooking's no good. Like that, sometimes we become very sentimental. It's important for us to have proper discrimination and to hear and to inquire from the spiritual teachers. And this way, then you can properly understand their position. Okay, where are we?
According to this formula.
Huh?
According to this formula.
Oh, really? According to this formula, the Goswamis, who are descendants of Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Advaita Prabhu, are certainly devotees. But devotees coming from other families should not be discriminated against. So this is an important point, that there are people, like there's a group called the Nityananda Vamshas. The Nityananda Vamshas claim they are the authorized descendants from Lord Nityananda. Now Lord Nityananda did marry. He had 2 wives. And he had one son, Virabhadra, and there was one daughter also. Daughter's name was Ganga. So Lord Nityananda did have a descendant, but Virabhadra, who was his son, he didn't marry. He stayed brahmachari. So after Lord Nityananda, after Virabhadra, there was no descendant. But there were people who were in the camp of Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda did have many associates. You know, he had like a Sankirtan party, and they would all go around. They'd go around Bengal and preach there, and they were all dressed up like cowherd boys. You know, they wear the ankle belts, and they had the buffalo horns and the sticks for herding the cows and all these things. And they were, you know, they were really in the mood of cowherd. They were cowherd boys. They were actually from Krishna Lila. And they'd come in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and they were with Lord Nityananda. So some of these people who were associates with Lord Nityananda and who were like disciples of Lord Nityananda, they claimed that we're the descendants from Lord Nityananda. So they claim because we're coming in the line from Lord Nityananda, we are the acharyas. We are the authorized acharyas, not these other people. They said, we're supposed to be the acharyas. We are the actual descendants from Nityananda. So Prabhupada's arguing against this. He said, all right, yeah, you're devotees, but does it mean nobody else can be a devotee? Does it mean you're the only one authorized? What is your qualification? You're born in the family of Lord Nityananda. Why don't you do the work of Lord Nityananda? Go out, go door to door and preach the holy name and make devotees. Go to Jagai and Madhai like Lord Nityananda did. They don't do that. They just want to sit and say, we are the authorized descendants. We're the ones. We're the acharyas. Not you people. So Prabhupada's arguing against this. You know, we don't mind. You want to preach? Okay, you're authorized. You're descendants of Lord Nityananda. Very good. Then preach. But don't think we cannot preach. We may not be born in the family of Lord Nityananda, but if we're taking up the mission of Lord Nityananda, then that is a good qualification. Anyone can do it. Why you're discriminating against us? You're the only ones because you're born in the family? Birth is not the important thing. We have to see the work. I remember we went to Shantipur one year, and Jayapataka Swami Maharaj was there, and he was introducing us. He said, this is the family of Advaita Acharya. You know, he was saying that they're the direct descendants of Advaita Acharya, still live there in Shantipur. Shantipur, and the home of Advaita Acharya is there, the temple is there, and the place where Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda came to sit with Advaita Acharya and take prasadam. Everything is there. So we went there. They have a big festival every year, Shantipur festival. It's on the disappearance day of Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri was the guru of Advaita Acharya. And so Advaita Acharya would celebrate this festival in honor of his guru. And so they had come to ISKCON and they asked us that we would help them in Shantipur because they had no means, they had no funds, they had no ability to organize anything. So they asked ISKCON devotees that you please come and help us and make the Shantipur festival the way it used to be in the times of Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya would have a big feast, many people would come. So we would go there and we would, we would put on, and every year we go there and we cook for many, many people. We cook big pots of khichdi. And it's said that anybody who gets prasadam and anybody who distributes prasadam on that day, they will get Krishna Prem. That's a blessing, that's what they say. You go there to Shantipur, you eat prasadam or you distribute prasadam, you'll get Krishna Prem. So we would go, so Jayapataka Maharaj was introducing us, this is the descendants, this is the family, this man, he's in the line from Advaita Acharya, he's a descendant of Advaita Acharya. And the man started talking about, oh yeah, Ramakrishna, He began speaking about, these other Bengali gurus, who were not Vaishnavas at all. He was talking about, oh, Ramakrishna, yeah, he's really good. And Jayapataka Maharaj said, tell him, shut up, you stupid. I mean, as time goes on, the generations, they're just not the same, I remember one of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's children, he came to the ISKCON temple in Calcutta. One of the devotees had come from USA and he'd been reading a lot of books, and he found out about Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house in Calcutta. And so he went to the house there in Calcutta and he met one of the descendants, one of the sons of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was still alive at that time. And he brought him to the temple. He came and met Prabhupada. But he was very nice, but he was just an ordinary man. He didn't have any real spiritual interests at all, He just had his family and he had his job or whatever. He was not particularly a devotee or anything. But he was a descendant, he was a child. He was a son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And similarly, Prabhupada had his children. And sometimes Prabhupada's children, at one point they were claiming that all Prabhupada's books are their property because they're his children. So they said all of his books, the right to publish all of his books, they belong to us, he was our father. And they wanted all the temples as well. Yeah. And there had to be a court case, we had to settle everything with them, and it's all money. You have to settle, somehow you have to settle these things, But, these people, they have nothing, they're just materialistic people, ordinary people. But their father was a great soul. And of course it was explained in court that Prabhupada took sannyas. And after he took sannyas, then he did all these things. And so he took sannyas. Sannyas is a walking dead man, right? In the Vedic culture, when you take sannyas, you become a walking dead man. It means you have no more connection with your family. You have no more responsibility to your family members or anything like that. You're freed from all that. If you read the Light of the Bhagavat, there's a nice example there. It says that when the man actually becomes a sannyasi and he leaves home and everything, he becomes like a white cloud. Like a white cloud. Before there's so many things, so many concerns, material problems, a family, this money, that money, oh, this child, that child. But once you become sannyasi, you're freed from all that. You become like the cloud without any rain in it, the white cloud. And so you become happy, freed from all that responsibility. Okay, so we're reading about the Nityananda Vamsas and the Advaita descendants, and Prabhupada's explaining to us that, these people, all right, they're devotees. We recognize them as devotees, but does it mean we're not devotees? Does it mean they're on a better position than us just because they're born in that family? They have to do something. Let them preach. Let them do something. But if they don't do anything, they just sit there and claim, we're the acharyas. Now the position of acharya is not by birth. It's not by birth. And Prabhupada always gives the example, the High Court judge. Your father may be a High Court judge. Doesn't mean the son is a High Court judge. The son may be a lawyer, but if he has to be qualified, he has to get the position of High Court judge. It's not just because father is a High Court judge, so a son is also a High Court judge. So birth is not the qualification. Okay, and then it said, oh,
Indeed.
Indeed. But devotees coming from other families should not be discriminated against. Indeed, whether the devotees come from a family of previous acharyas or from an ordinary family, they should be treated equally. One should not think, oh, here is an American Goswami, and discriminate against him. Nor should one think, here is a Nityananda Vamsa Goswami. There is an undercurrent of protest against our awarding the title Goswami to the American Vaishnavas of the Krishna consciousness movement. Sometimes people flatly tell the American devotees that their sannyas or title of Goswami is not bona fide. However, according to the statement of Srila Rupa Goswami in this verse, an American Goswami and a Goswami in a family of acharyas are non-different. So Prabhupada had this kind of opposition, that Prabhupada gave the title Goswami to some Western-bodied people, and they didn't like it. But previously, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he had problems also. When he first came to Vrindavan, he brought with him all of his disciples, and he'd given them, many of them had been initiated as brahmanas, and they were wearing the sacred brahmana thread. So when they came to Vrindavan, all the shopkeepers in Vrindavan, they closed the shops. They didn't want to sell anything. They didn't want to do any business with them. They didn't want to recognize them. They just closed their shops. This was how they treated Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He was giving the Brahmin initiation to people born in India, and they didn't like it. Why you give them Brahmin? They're not Brahmin. They thought, your father has to be Brahmin, then you can be Brahmin. If you're not born in the proper family, you're not right to wear the sacred thread. And they were arguing like that. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he didn't care what they said. He acted according to scripture. So according to scripture, anyone can become a Brahmana. And the verse is there, just like bell metal can be made into gold by the alchemical process. In the same way, any person who is properly initiated and trained by a bona fide spiritual master, they can become a Brahmana. It's not simply the birth. A very important point. And similarly, it's extended when we talk about Goswamis. Swami or Goswami, that title, it doesn't depend on birth. You may be born in an American body, a Western body, but you may be Goswami. You may have, but we have to, the qualification is there. You have to have gone through the proper training also. The proper training from the bona fide spiritual teacher. Just like we read the first verse. The qualification to become the spiritual teacher, you have to control the senses. Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. All control the Vegas. Then you can accept disciples all over the world. And similarly, you can become a Goswami if you're properly trained, properly qualified. And you can also have Brahman initiation, Brahman Diksha. What is the qualification? The qualification for the Brahman Diksha is that one is faithfully following the 4 regulative principles and daily chanting 16 rounds. In the recent times, we're seeing some spiritual masters, they're suggesting to the disciples that you take the Bhakti Shastri course. You study the Bhakti Shastri course, and when you finish Bhakti Shastri course, then you come and request second initiation. But the idea is, you want to get the Brahman initiation, you should be Brahmana in quality. Means you should study the scriptures, you should know the scriptures, you should have the Brahminical qualities from Bhagavad Gita. Samo damas tapasocham shantir arjavam evacha jnana vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. Right? We want to get the Brahman initiation, we should have these qualities. Peacefulness, self-control, purity, knowledge, wisdom, religiousness. These different 9 qualities are there. This is for the Brahmana. You want to be Brahmana? The training is there. We have to study the scriptures. Brahmanas are expected to also speak, to give classes, and they're expected to worship the deity, do these different things. It's taking more responsibility. It's doing more service. Taking Brahman initiation does not mean I will do less service. It's we do more service. We take on more responsibility. Teaching and showing the example to the other younger devotees, junior devotees. So Prabhupada was very concerned about this, training the devotees, getting them properly qualified for initiation, and similarly for sannyas. Nowadays, before they give sannyas, they have a sannyasi training college. They have a sannyasi college or some course, which those people who are candidates for sannyas, they go through. In Srila Prabhupada's time, it was more spontaneous thing. People would come to Prabhupada, they'd come to Prabhupada and they say, Prabhupada, I would like to take sannyas. And then Prabhupada would consider. Maybe they knew Prabhupada, they had some relationship with Prabhupada, then Prabhupada would, if he thought it was good, then okay. I remember there was one devotee, there was a devotee, he was from Los Angeles. So he was in charge of the BBT. He was a manager in the BBT, publishing all the books, and he had quite a big position. So he came one time and he said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I want to take sannyas. So Prabhupada looked at him and Prabhupada said, you should go back to Los Angeles, and there are many nice young girls there, go back and get married. So sometimes Prabhupada would say like that. It's not that every time Prabhupada would just agree, give them sannyas. So like that, sometimes Prabhupada would tell that you better just go back and take a wife and live as a householder. and be an example for others. Not that every time Prabhupada would give sannyas to everybody who came. And even sometimes Prabhupada would come for initiation and he'd say, there are too many, he would say, too many people. He said, you have too many people here. You have to reduce it. I don't want to initiate all these people. And particularly for the second initiation, Prabhupada was very cautious, more cautious in giving the second initiation. Because Prabhupada saw how some people are unsteady, that after taking initiation, they may give up the vows. So that's very bad. And we're seeing people are criticizing, you're giving these people titles like Goswamis, and you're giving them Brahman threads, and look what they're doing. If they start taking drugs again, or if they're doing illicit sex, or if they even eating impure foods, then it's very bad for the Krishna consciousness movement. So Prabhupada was very concerned like that, very concerned to see we maintain good standards. Any questions? On the other hand, a devotee who has attained the title of Goswami but is not born of a Brahmana father or of a Goswami in the family of Nityananda or Advaita Prabhu should not be artificially puffed up by thinking that he has become a Goswami. He should always remember that as soon as he becomes materially puffed up, he immediately falls down. The Krishna consciousness movement is a transcendental science, and there is no room for jealousy. This movement is meant for the Paramahamsas, who are completely free from all jealousy. Paramam nirmatsaranam. One should not be jealous whether he is born in a family of Goswamis or has the title of Goswami awarded to him. As soon as anyone becomes envious, he falls from the platform of Paramahansa. Now actually there's no difference really between the title Swami and Goswami. Srila Prabhupada initiated, first of all, he was giving the title Swami, but then at some point he initiated, I think the first Goswami was Tamal Krishna. Now Tamal Krishna had been a householder, so he was becoming a sannyasi. So Prabhupada gave him the title Goswami. Then later on in Los Angeles, Satsvarupa and Hridayananda both came to take sannyas, and Prabhupada also gave them the title Goswami. They were both also coming from Grihastha ashram. But usually people coming from Brahmachari ashram, they would be given the title Swami. I don't know, what name did Sankarshan Nitai get? Anybody know? Anyway, he was coming from Brahmachari life, he was a Brahmachari. There was some other sannyasi ceremony yesterday. Was it Gopal Krishna Maharaj gave sannyas yesterday also?
He got, Sankarshan got the name Bhakti, his name is Bhakti Prachar Paribrajaka Swami.
Bhakti Prachar
Paribrajaka.
Paribrajak
Swami.
Paribrajak Swami. Bhakti Prachar. Huh?
Yesterday one more devotee took sannyas in Delhi. he got the name Bhakti Karunamai Vanmali Swami.
Vanamali Swami. Yes, the Swamis, two Swamis. They were both coming from brahmachari life, but sometimes the ones who come out from grihastha life, they get the title Goswami. It's not a rule, but it may be like that. You know? Actually, there's no difference in the names. There are many different names for sannyasis. Just like Madhavendra Puri. So Puri is a title of sannyas. And then Tirtha is also a title of sannyas. And there are other, like my own name is also, my name was not Swami, my name was Nrsimha. There are 108 names given by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati for sannyas. So this was one of the names. So the title, it's not Swami, but it's just Nrsimha. So there's some controversy about that. Jayapataka Maharaj, I heard from Jayapataka Maharaj, he said that Prabhupada said in our movement we would only have Swamis and Goswamis. But there are other names. There are other, not everybody follows that. Okay, so we're hearing about these Goswamis, and Prabhupada's making the point that you may get the title Goswami, don't think you're actually Goswami. Don't become proud and think you're really a Goswami. You may be given that name, but you have to become worthy of that title. That is the point. And actually when Satsvarupa Maharaj and Hridayananda Maharaj, when they got sannyas, they got the name Goswami, so they asked Prabhupada, what does it mean, you know, this name Goswami? Because they were not sure, that it was kind of new for them. So Prabhupada told them, he said, you should study the Goswami ISKCON. And if you study the Goswami ISKCON, then you will know what is actually the behavior of a Goswami. Right? You all know the Goswami ISKCON? You know, about chanting the holy name in regulated measurements, and accepting loincloth, and conquering overeating and sleeping, and being always meek and humble, and following in the footsteps of the gopis, like that. So this way Prabhupada told them, you study this song, Goswami ISKCON, and you'll know what is a Goswami. But just because you have the title Goswami, don't think you're actually Goswami. Don't become proud. Rather, become more humble. Think of yourself being unqualified and unworthy. Okay, any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, just like you told, there is a criticism between the devotees also. And I personally observed there is a lot of criticism between the equals, and I am also a victim of it. When something happens, a clash between an equal devotee, so I start taking the bad qualities of that devotee. So how can we, this clashes are always there, Maharaj, so how we can overcome this thing and avoid criticism of the devotee?
Well, we should be tolerant. If somebody is criticizing us, we should see it as the arrangement of Krishna for our purification. Not that we should become agitated and disturbed. Rather, we should think, thank you, Krishna, that Krishna is teaching me to be more humble and to think of myself as more fallen. But criticism coming from peers, especially coming from equals, we should value it. we should think, well, there must be something there. I must have some fault in me, and I should try to correct it. I should do something, try to go out and do something about it to try to improve my position. But it doesn't do good to try to get angry that, oh, this person. If somebody points out faults in us, rather we should be receptive to this. And we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was residing in Jagannath Puri, Ramachandra Puri came there, and Ramachandra Puri criticized him. He came to the room where Lord Chaitanya was staying, what's it called, Gambhira? Yeah? And said, ah, look, so many insects are running around here. And Ramachandra Puri said, before I had heard, you Gaudiya Vaishnavas eat too much. You eat too many sweets. You must have been keeping sweets here. Now so many insects have come. And that's why the insects are crawling here. And actually, it's not like that. Insects are always coming everywhere, here and there. They're always looking for something. But it doesn't mean that you had anything there. Anyway, Ramachandra Puri said like that to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when Lord Chaitanya heard that criticism, Lord Chaitanya ordered his servant, from today on, reduce my prasadam to 1/4 of what you usually bring. All the devotees were very pained that Lord Chaitanya was reducing his eating to such a small amount of what he would usually eat. But Lord Chaitanya ordered it, and he had to do it. And he did like that. So long as that Ramachandra Puri stayed there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu greatly reduced his eating. Now usually Lord Chaitanya would like to take prasadam. He would enjoy taking prasadam in good quantities. But because this Ramachandra Puri came and criticized him, he reduced his eating. So that's the proper way. You get criticism, somebody criticizes you, you should take it seriously. That there must be something there. Anyway, Krishna is allowing this person to criticize me. I should do something about it. Yes?
Maharaj, his question is how much we have to serve in the ashram to get the title of, to get the sannyas initiation, and what is the qualification to get that?
To get sannyas?
No, Maharaj is just inquiring.
Oh. Well, there's no special qualification. There's just simply the desire. You have a desire to want to take up that monastic life and to dedicate yourself fully to the preaching of Krishna consciousness. You have to want to dedicate yourself for the rest of your life to preaching and doing propaganda work. In this Kali Yuga, you know, in the Vedic culture, sannyas was meant for renunciation and doing a lot of austerities. But in this society, modern times, nowadays, sannyas is more for preaching and propaganda work. At the same time, minimizing bodily demands. But less emphasis, you know, in the past, in other ages, you would wear tree bark, you know, or a deer skin or something. You'd really be, you know, really renounced like that, you know. And they do these kind of things. But nowadays, sannyas is more, it's the duty of the sannyasis that they will travel and preach and make propaganda for the Krishna consciousness movement. Try to awaken God consciousness in people. by their preaching and by their own activities. They try to give Krishna consciousness, opening temples and bringing people into Krishna consciousness, engaging people in Krishna consciousness. That is it. So what is the qualification? Qualification of the sannyasi, well, they have to be renounced, that they have no interest in the other sex. They're not interested in association with women, and they should be able to give up the connections with their family. If you have people in your family who are depending on you, then you can't really take sannyas, because your families are depending on you. So you shouldn't have any dependence, and you should be very careful, very honest in all the funds. You don't take sannyas to become rich, but you take sannyas to utilize everything in the service of the Krishna consciousness movement. Some people think that, oh, sannyasi, they get a lot of money. But you have to understand, whatever money comes to the sannyasi, it's for the service of the Krishna consciousness movement. It's not for his own sense gratification. And so, different sannyasis have different projects. Just like we have in Mayapur, we have TOVP. We try to donate money there. We give money to different parts of the world where they're struggling. They need help. They need support. So sannyasi has to be very dedicated to the Krishna consciousness movement. And he will work under authority. He'll be guided by the GBC and by the leaders of the Krishna consciousness movement. So before you can take sannyas, you have to be recommended. And you'll be recommendation will go to the GBC body, and the GBC body give their approval. And then after they get their approval, then the sannyas initiation takes place. So this is the system in ISKCON. It's quite difficult in ISKCON to get sannyas now. If you're in the Gaudiya Math, it's quite easy. In the Gaudiya Math, for about every 5 devotees, there's a sannyasi. But we see in ISKCON, there's hundreds of devotees for only one sannyasi. It's a whole different situation. In the Gaudiya Math, you can be taking care of the Goshala, and they'll give you sannyas. But in Krishna consciousness movement, in ISKCON, you want to take sannyas, they want you to do things like go to Africa, go to China, go to these places and develop Krishna consciousness where there is no Krishna consciousness. They want you to do pioneering preaching. Sannyasis, just like Prabhupada went to America, he didn't have anybody, he didn't have any money, he didn't have any contacts, but he went to America to preach. So sannyasis are supposed to do that kind of thing. Take on that responsibility to go where there is no temple, where there are no devotees, to go there and to develop the preaching. Just like you all came here to Attapur, there was no temple, there was no center, no devotees, but you come here and you've made nice congregation, you've got nice temple and everything. So very good. So this is actually the sannyasi is meant to do this kind of thing. Opening up new centers. There was one sannyasi, he was in Vrindavan and he said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I just want to stay here in Vrindavan. But Prabhupada said, no, he said, you're a sannyasi, you're meant to give Vrindavan to others. You're meant to go and give Vrindavan to others. You're not meant to just enjoy Vrindavan yourself. You have to go out and give Vrindavan. Understand?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. Yes, Prabhu?
Maharaj, it is said that relatives or family members of a guru also should be respected as on the level of a guru. But again, it is again on the platform of bodily consumption only. So how, as you said that it is on bodily consumption like Nityananda Vamsa and others. So how is it true that we should respect the relatives of a guru as on the level of guru?
Well, we respect them, but it doesn't mean that they become the acharya. Right? We're talking about the acharya, taking the position of the acharya. The Nityananda Vamshas, they're claiming they are the acharyas, they are the authorities, overseeing the whole sampradaya. So Prabhupada said, no, they're devotees, we don't mind, they're devotees, but does it mean we cannot be devotees? You know, you have to see that what preaching are they doing, what preaching, what efforts. At the same time, you know, we respect them, all right? You're in the family or in the line from Lord Nityananda, we offer respects. A devotee of Krishna, Prabhupada said, devotee of Krishna not only offers respect to Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, it will offer respect even to an insect, because Krishna's in the heart. So we respect these these people who are from the families of the gurus and the acharyas. We respect them. They have a good birth, they're fortunate. But it doesn't make them acharyas. So we just offer respects to them. Very nice. So, the Prabhupada's family, one time, we sometimes meet Prabhupada's family, Prabhupada's son, Prabhupada's wife, like that, we'd meet them, you know. With Prabhupada's ex-wife, of course, Prabhupada took sannyasi's ex-wife. We offer respect to them. We should respect the Guru's family like the Guru. We give them respect. But it doesn't mean they become the acharyas. We should respect everyone, but especially we should respect people coming in a family where there's great devotee. I saw there was this one Nityananda Vamsa one time. He was very big, very tall, and you know, he was very handsome, very good looking. It was almost like it was Lord Nityananda or something, you know. And he was dancing, and in kirtan, and he was dancing, and it was like ecstasy. He was in ecstasy, you know. It's like a little bit of a show. I don't know how genuine it was, but he was dancing in the kirtan and he's staggering. But it was certainly impressive. And so Nityananda Vamsas, the family of Advaita Acharya. Yeah.
Maharaj, the shloka Apiche Sudara Chara Bhajadeva Mananaba Sadhureva Samantavya. Suppose if you take this shloka like advantage of it, and after coming to Krishna consciousness again tend to commit sinful activities, we are already in the process, so again we'll get purified. So this mentality comes, how can we overcome this?
Well, Srila Prabhupada explains that if again and again we're inclined towards sinful activities, then it means our devotion is not of a very high standard. That we should simply understand that our devotional mood is not of a very high level. That because again and again we're becoming inclined towards sinful activities. Now once or twice may happen, Krishna can forgive you. But if it happens again and again, then we should understand that our devotion is not of a very high standard. And we have to be very careful, very conscious. So, like that, we have to the verse says, he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. And Krishna says, declare it boldly, my devotee will never vanquish. But still, if the devotee is going to continue to engage in sinful activities again and again, then it simply is an indication that one's devotional service hasn't come to a very high platform. And we have to go very deeply, we have to really lament and go very deeply and try to change ourselves. We have to take it very seriously. It's not that, oh, I did something wrong, or so, oh, Krishna will forgive me. Or somebody may do something once or twice, Krishna can forgive, but not all the time, not regularly. So we have to be careful and conscious, and we want to come to that platform where we won't do anything sinful, where we'll be very careful to avoid any kind of sinful activity. So that tendency is there in people. Sometimes they come to Krishna consciousness and difficult to give up bad habits. And again they go back to the old habit, the old habit. So they're devotees, but they're devotees of a low standard, that they're not able to follow strictly. So that's a problem. So what to do? Well, they should be encouraged. We try to encourage these people. They have to be rightly situated. That will help them to avoid the sinful activities. They have to be rightly situated. Just sometimes people, they have to get married, or they have to get a job, or something like that. And then when they take some responsibility, then they become more careful and better. One devotee, he had broken the regulative principles. He had had an illicit relationship with a girl. Prabhupada told him, you should not eat opulent food again. Don't eat opulent food. So like that, Prabhupada was giving personal instruction to him. So the material energy is very powerful. We have to understand, people can fall down, anybody can fall down. Anyone, it can happen to anyone. As Prabhupada said, don't be surprised who goes away. Just be surprised some people stay. Because the material energy is so powerful and so overwhelming. So we want to just call out to Krishna and hold on to Krishna. And certainly it's a constant battle. We have to constantly fight against the material energy. And Srila Prabhupada, one time he was there, he was praying to the deities, he turned to the devotees and said to the devotees who were there, he said, I'm always praying to Krishna, please don't let me fall down. So Prabhupada was saying like that. So how much we should be praying to Krishna, don't let me fall down. We should constantly keep that prayer in our mind. Keep me engaged in your service. Okay? Any other question? All right, then we'll stop here today. Hare Krishna.